Hey, you want me to talk into? Good afternoon. We welcome everybody in listening and watching us today on DTMechanics.com. I'm Matt Douglas. You can see on the screen there players to watch here today as Week 7 of the AUDL season gets underway with the Detroit Mechanics hosting the Cincinnati Revolution. Looking at the screen there for Detroit. Here, guys, Eric Hubbard, one of the leading scorers, in fact, the leading scorer for this Mechanics team. He's got 15 goals this season, along with Kevin Coulter, number 15, immediately to his left. Couple of assist guys right next to them, and Scott Soto Santi, 14 goals thrown this year. He's the leading assister on the squad. Half of those have gone to the guy on the left there, Kevin Coulter, for the Detroit Mechanics. Then immediately to his left, of course, Aaron Del Real. He has been anxious to get on the score sheet here recently for the Detroit Mechanics. In fact, so much so, 14 goals for this team. He's second on the team. He's also got 8 assists, a guy who can do it on either side of the disc offensively. On the other side of the disc, you've got the Cincinnati Revolution coming into today's game with a 1-6 record. They've lost their last 6 games after defeating the Detroit Mechanics in the opening week here of the AUDL season. They are hungry for that win. Detroit Mechanics on a bit of a losing streak themselves. It has been 20 games since they have claimed a victory in the AUDL. So we get ready to go here. The coin flip has been conducted by David Dolberg, head official for today, along with Bailey Torvinen and Bob Houston. They'll be keeping everybody within the rules of the game here in the AUDL. Coin flip was won, it appears, by the Cincinnati Revolution. They are going to receive the disc. Wind right now for today's game blowing right across the field here at Bishop Foley Catholic High School in Madison Heights, Michigan. We've got a defensive line on the field for the Detroit Mechanix. On the other side, we see Scott Schreiner, very dangerous man. When he gets the disc in his hands, look to him to handle big time. In fact, this disc is going to fall, well, not in front of that, actually end up hitting Gus Misla, and that is going to be a turnover, just like that. Hey, Lady Luck starting on the side of the Detroit Mechanix as DeFeng Chen picks up the disc. Defensive handler brings to Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero. He's going to continue this one forward. It's taken by Patrick Krantz, who immediately gets fouled on the play. We'll walk this one up 10 yards. That was Schreiner on the foul. So about 5 yards from the end zone, Krantz stands with the disc in his hand, looking to Hubbard. Going to look him off. Back to Grimaldo Barrero, right back into the hands of Krantz, looking for that first assist of the game, first goal of the game. It'd be big for the Mechanix to get on the scoreboard first. Grimaldo Barrero right back into the hands of Krantz, still looking strong into the end zone. Defense staying tough right now for the Cincinnati Revolution. Caught Hubbard just short of the end zone. He's going to have to continue that on. Can't find anywhere. Gets it back. Danny Hunt there for the dump. Plays it forward. Krantz again with the disc in his hand. He's going to continue it. Chen on the far sideline. Resetting back in the middle. A diving Krantz keeps things alive. Schreiner marking him up. Back to Chen. He's got Hubbard for the score. Mechanix get this one started 1-0. And that is DeFeng Chen's first assist, I believe, here of the year. For the Detroit Mechanix, it will be the first goal of the game. Eric Hubbard now a team-leading 16 goals this season. So a good start right away, and just great effort by the Mechanix. They are hungry in this game. Speaking with Brent Steep, the owner, one of the runners of this Detroit team, in fact runs the Detroit team as the owner, saying that his team was hungry. They wanted to get out here now. He can't be with the team today as he's currently in Madison, Wisconsin, helping out the game of Ultimate, but he's going to be keeping an eye on this one here on DT Mechanix along with you as the Mechanix get on the scoreboard first, making it 1-0 on the pass from Chen to Eric Hubbard. Here we go. This one fielded cleanly by the Revolution. They're going to continue this one quickly down the field. There's Hardesty with the disc. He's going to dump it back off. Cody Fox forward. Nice grab on that far sideline, handled by Ted Landis. Landis, another dump back off, this time being handled by Tim Settles, a man they call Skittles on the team for various reasons. Obviously, the name very close to Settles, so it makes it easy enough. Settles going into the end zone for Landis. That one well out of bounds before Landis can reel it in, and the Detroit Mechanix come up with another defensive stop, albeit the last one maybe a little bit easier than many you're going to see, but the Mechanix did a good job taking advantage of it. Kevin Coulter, I believe, on that far side line, going to bring things in as he will be guarded by Gus Misla. And this is a guy who can play all sides of the disc. Defensively, he's strong. Offensively, he's strong. Forces the pass to Wazdi Grimaldo Barrera. Right back to Kevin Coulter. One of the leading scorers on this team, 15. Eric Hubbard, the only Mechanix player with more scores than he, and that is in part because he scored the opener here. There's misplay by Grimaldo Barrero as he was trying to send that one on down the line. It was out of the hands, I believe that was Channing Watson. Could not hold on for the Mechanix. So the disc is turned over, and the Revolution offensive line get another opportunity after a couple of hiccups to start this game. Schreiner going high into the end zone. This one's going to float. Coulter goes up, won't get to it. Instead, that is the man, Eddie Mack, coming down with it for the Cincinnati Revolution. His 8th goal of the season. That is his first of the game. He is currently one of the top scorers for the Cincinnati Revolution. They like to spread out their scoring on this team. We already talked a little bit about Scott Schreiner and the things he's done. Double digits when it comes to goals. He's got 10 this season. Eddie Mack, we just mentioned, with his 8th of the year on that catch. Gus Misla, huge offensive threat. That deep cut, always big when he gets the disc. A Cincy product. He's got 20 goals this season, and the list goes on and on. You've got Will Huffer, who's got 7 goals this year for the Cincinnati Revolution. Number of guys who can either throw that disc into the end zone or score it. A little bit of a different story on the other side for DMX. 0-5 this season. They really have got 3 guys the teams have to focus on. That's Aaron Del Real, 14 goals this season, one of the leaders on the team. Kevin Coulter with 15. Scott Soto Santi, who's one of the top assist guys in this league. I don't know that his numbers will talk about that. You won't see him up there as a stats leader, but this guy's got a big backhand. He finds the disc in his hands right now, getting it on to Kevin Coulter. Continues the disc right down the field. It's handled by Aaron Del Real. Looking back into the middle, bit of a floater, handled cleanly that time around by Brian Bush, plays the ball near side, and again, it's going to be Bush handling the disc before that one is slapped out of play on the diving attempt by Keegan Carroll, his 7th defensive play of the year for the Cincinnati Revolution. Discontinued. Will Huffer looking down the field, finds his man as that's sent by Keegan North all the way to the far side, right back into the hands of Keegan Carroll. Now looking into the end zone. Kevin Coulter with a bit of a poach off, and there once again for the score, number 23, Keegan North. Northern Kentucky product, guy has a wrestling background. This is his first year in the AUDL. That is a goal for the Revolution, and just like that, they have taken the lead. A couple of hiccups there for the Revs when they started this game. They dropped that opening pull. I don't know you can actually call that a drop, but Gus Misla ran into the disc as he was heading down the field to get ready for cutting. The Detroit Mechanix took advantage of that. They were able to score, but 2 quick returns on the far end of the field. Eddie Mack coming down with the score, and then that one right there by Keegan North has given the Cincinnati Revolution the lead as they will put their defensive line really on here for what will be their second big point after that stop on the last play. So they'll get ready to pull this one off. Detroit Mechanix offense setting up. And again, we see Kevin Coulter going to be handling some of this offense today. Joseph Bassard, Brian Yeager on the far side, and that's where this disc is going to go on the pull. So far sideline, Brian Yeager setting things up. Bassard near side, Del Real in a horizontal stack. Near side, Kevin Coulter comes up the middle, though. He's going to receive it, plays it on to Todd Hirschberger. Hirschberger back to Kevin Coulter, middle of the field, past midfield, being guarded tightly as the stack goes horizontally across for the Detroit Mechanix, wearing their home black jerseys today. Nice little flick up forward. Grabbed by Kevin Coulter, played on to Brian Yeager, and Detroit ties this one up. The unlikely of unlikely, Brian Yeager, used to throwing that disc into the end zone, I believe. That will be his first goal of the year for the Detroit Mechanix, and you can't go wrong with that. When you're scoring goals, when you're throwing goals, things are going well. And Brian Yeager again notching his first goal of the year here for DMX. 8 minutes and 16 seconds left to play in the opening quarter between these two rivals. Bit of a try and compare this, speaking with Ramey Yonkin, who's the acting head coach, managing owner of the Cincinnati Revolution right now. He's again doing the coaching duties down there as they've sort of gone between guys this year. Their captains do a big job coaching this squad as well during practice. Eddie Mack, one of those guys. Isaac Jeffries out today. He's got some things he's pertaining to, a little bit of an injury, trying to rest that up and get healthy. And, of course, Tim Settle is one of the big offensive cutters. We'll see from him as he is on the field right now, but the disc will be thrown to Schreiner. Actually, I don't see Tim Settle as this comes into the hand of Corey Hardesty, setting up that offensive stack right back to Schreiner. Played up the field, handled by Gus Misla. 20 goals this season. He's going to try and throw one. This one going to be caught by Ted Landis for his first of the game. And he is an offensive cutter. Speaking with Ramey Yonkin earlier today about the Cincinnati Revolution, he is one of the guys. He said, watch him. He can be a lot of fun. When he's got an up day, we've got an up day. And right now, Ted Landis getting on the scoreboard for the first time today. Again, his first goal here in the early goings. He is obviously doing something right in the early goings. This one, 9 goals this season. That is his 10th for the Cincinnati Revolution. It also gives the Revs the lead here, 3-2 at Bishop Foley Catholic School, the home of the Detroit Mechanix and their AUDL home games this year. They'll hit the road after this one concludes here today, and then they will come back a little bit later in the season, back on June 7th, against right now one of only a couple of undefeated teams in the AUDL, the Madison Radicals. So, bit of a road trip here for the upcoming Detroit Mechanix. It's been 20 games since they've been able to come up with a victory. They're looking to get things started on the right foot as they will head on the road. The pull comes by the Cincinnati Revolution. Bit of a bouncer played by Brian Bush. continues it on to Joseph Besser. Grabs Scott Soto-Santi looking for that big backhand. Great job by Eric Brinkman to step off. He gave Soto-Santi a little bit of room. He stepped to the right side so he could try and take away that backhand. Did so. Results in a dump. Detroit doing a good job maintaining the disc. And you can bet they'll try and look for Soto-Santi again. Del Real chop off. Brought back to Kevin Coulter. Floater into the end zone. This one intended for Soto-Santi. It's in. It's good. Soto-Santi on the board. Bit of the opposite going the other way. Spoke at the beginning of this game about Scott Soto-Santi. His goals 14 this year, throwing for the Detroit Mechanix. 7 of those had been to Kevin Coulter. We get the other end of that relationship this time around as Kevin Coulter sends that one into the end zone to Scott Soto-Santi for his first goal of the game, his 6th of the season for the Detroit Mechanix. That puts 7 minutes and 32 seconds up on the board, and we are evened up at 3 apiece. Matt Douglas with you today on DETmechanics.com. We can catch all the home games of the Detroit Mechanix right here on the internet, as they like to call it. Technology, you gotta love it. Bringing the AUDL to you in person every single week. This is sent through the air here by the Detroit Mechanix. This one's going to be a little bit of a floater, as that was pulled by Andrew Krantz of the Detroit Mechanix. Received in the middle of the field by Cody Fox. Automatically to Ted Landis, who is making a big mark now. Did he hold on? That's the question. He was able to group that one in, they're going to say. So he'll play that one back. Here's Eddie Mack with the disc. Jack of all trades, captain for this team. 7 goals, 17 assists. Sides on the dump this time around. That's what worked out best for him. Played on Tim Settles. Again with the disc. There's Gus Misla back to Settles. 2 very dangerous players for the Cincinnati Revolution team. There's another one, Eddie Mack. They've got the triplets out there on the field, so to speak, and there they connect with one another as Eddie Mack finds Tim Settles for the score, and Tim Settles is on the board for the first time here tonight. Now, Settles, one of those guys that this Cincinnati Revolution team takes a lot of pride in, what he's been able to do. You'll see a lot of their giveaways go to him. Tim Settles with his 13th goal of the season on that catch this year. Not only can he get the job done that way, but when the disc is in his hand, he's one of those guys who can throw that thing, hurl that Frisbee into the end zone for the scores. He's got 7 assists coming into this game. And, he's been one of those one of those forces to reckon with in the Midwest Division this season for the Cincinnati Revolution. A 4-3 score for the Cincinnati Revolution as they will pull this one off, send the disc hurling down the field here at Bishop Foley Catholic School as it falls into the hands of Brian Bush. To Joseph Besser, the Eastern Pennsylvania native out of Philadelphia. That's where he calls home. He and Will Smith hanging out there back in the day, playing some b-ball. Oh, a bit of a miscue there. Todd Hirschberg looking to that right side for Brian Yeager. Ends up being D'd away, knocked to the ground by Cody Fox, as the Revs now take possession of the disc, handled by Keegan North. Nice little forehand flick, placed into the middle of the field. This is where you want to be comfortable, where you want to call home. That's exactly what the Revs are doing right now. Will Huffer, far side. Nice put there, as this one's going to float for a bit. That was Colin Grandin who threw that disc. Jumping up, pulling it down, Eric Brinkman. And then a wide open player all alone in the end zone for the score, as that is pulled in by Ben Jansen, number 54, his first score of the game for the Revolution. Ben Jansen, let's see where exactly he stands when it comes to scoring this year. Doesn't have too many goals this year, and it's just his 2nd of the season for the Revs, but it is the go-ahead goal here that puts the Revs up 5-3, the score with 6 minutes and 14 seconds, and the Revolution's using what they can to their advantage. Speaking before this game with Ramey Yonkin, the acting owner, acting head coach today's game for the Cincinnati Revolution. He looks at this game with Detroit as a bit of a rivalry, and you can certainly bet that Detroit looks at it the same way. 2 teams that have been close since the inception of this league in the AUDL. These were the first 2 teams to play against each other in this league, or at least 2 of the first to play against each other. 2 original 8s. There's only 3 left. The other going along with these 2 is Indianapolis. Brian Yeager receives the pull from the Cincinnati Revolution in the middle of the end zone, sets it forward. Joseph Besser, nice little 10-yard pass. Besser looking upfield for Kevin Fulter. He's going to look him off. Andrew Lucarati, first time we've seen him on the field today for the Detroit Mechanix. You can bet he's going to be a big part of the offense. On to Hirschberger, then to Kevin Coulter. Floater goes up and over Del Real, but Joseph Besser there to back him up for the Detroit Mechanix. Lucarati off to Kevin Coulter, far side. Another floater. Del Real says that one's not getting away from me. Back to Joseph Besser on the far sideline, putting the mark on. Will Huffer for the Revolution. Lucarati comes back for a deep dump. He gets free quickly on the mark. Are the Cincinnati Revolution as disc played to Del Real. Makes a diving bid for it. Another diving bid to Brian Yeager. Right now the Mechanix being forced to throw some wicked passes, but their offense coming up with it very cleanly. Scott Soto Santi on forward to Kevin Coulter. Just shy of the end zone, 4 yards out to Joseph Besser on the inside out throw. Mechanix make it a 1-goal game. 5-4 in the early going. Still 5:13 left to play. And Joseph Besser getting on the scoreboard with his first goal of the game for himself. The Detroit Mechanix getting 3 other goals here so far, I should say. Yes, 3 other goals. Those coming from Eric Hubbard, Brian Yeager, and Scott Soto Santi. Soto Santi's on the assist from Kevin Coulter. And as we talked about earlier in this game, those are the 2 guys you have got to focus on if you are anyone in the Midwest playing against this Detroit Mechanix team. They connect about 50% of the time with one another. Scott Soto Santi, 14 goals thrown this year by the Mechanix. 7 of those have been to Kevin Coulter. Kevin Coulter's speed just phenomenal. It is second to none here in the AUDL with what he's able to do. Patrick Krantz with the pull for the Detroit Mechanix, waiting for it on the far sideline. Eddie Mack thought about letting that one go out, then thought better of it. Plays it over to Schreiner all the way to the far side. Cody Fox with the disc. Played forward diving effort by Eric Hubbard. He cannot get to it though as Tim Settles brings that one in for the Cincinnati Revolution. Forward to Fox, pulling up midfield. Nice little dump to Eddie Mack as he comes free. Continues the disc on, this time handled by Gus Misla. Dropped the pull at the beginning of the game. Done a tremendous job bringing the disc back, though, for the Revs. Now he's going to be the target of a toss by Eddie Mack. This going to the far sideline. Kevin Coulter there to make the D. Well, it's a confusing play, but it is a D. And the Detroit Mechanix will come away with possession. And pardon me, that's not Kevin Coulter making that D on that far sideline. That was Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero coming up with that one. You got to appreciate that defensive cutter to Patrick Krantz. In front of his own end zone, Eric Hubbard comes forward. Settles going to be marked up with him. It goes right back to Hubbard, leading the team with 16 goals this year. Doesn't want to throw it. He gives it off to Grimaldo Barrero. Back to Krantz. Hubbard is cutting deep. He's open. Channing Watson looking for the pass. He can't get it, though, as the mark put on tightly by Eddie Mack, not giving him the freedom. Hubbard's going to come back in. Great cut by Eric Hubbard. He couldn't get up free. He decided to bring it back in. Now he's going to call a timeout. Tim Settles has been guarding him. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch here throughout this game. The other one that's going to be very exciting to watch is Stephen Moore. He's going to get a lot of time playing against Aaron Del Real. So 2 of the big hitters for this Detroit Mechanix team going to be facing some of those better defenders, as you would expect of the Cincinnati Revolution. Eric Hubbard deciding to call a timeout to bring an offensive line onto the field. That's exactly what's going to happen as we see DeFang Chen step off, Brian Yeager come on, Andrew Lucarati comes onto the field, Patrick Krantz will step off. So you've got a number of guys who are used to handling this disc, more comfortable in that offensive position. You'll see like the game of hockey here in the game of Ultimate, for those who may not be familiar, you've got certain guys who handle certain jobs. Now in the game of hockey, it's continuous, just like the game of Ultimate. You've got to stay on the field regardless of whether you turn the disc over or give it back. There are no line changes in the game of Ultimate, so you stay on until either a timeout's been called or a point is scored. In this case, Eric Hubbard deciding he wanted to get an offensive group, give his team a chance to tie this one up. They trail by just 1 with 3:57 remaining in the opening quarter. Now on the other side of the field, the Cincinnati Revolution are allowed to bring on a defensive line, set up the way they would like against this Mechanic offense. The officials about to get things started once again. It is 90-second timeout. They're allowed to utilize all that time. If they're ready to start before that, they can certainly do so. But I almost called them the Bluegrass Revolution, their original title. They're the Cincinnati Revolution now. Ben Jansen going to set up the stall for the Cincinnati Revolution as Brian Yeager picks up the disc to bring this one into play at midfield. Looks to his right. Bit of a floater, but handled greatly by Scott Soto Santi. That was the plan all along. Here's Kevin Coulter's favorite target. And on the forehand flick, this one's never going to find its way back in. It went out of bounds about 5 yards from where Soto Santi let that one go. So not too far a throw. Actually, they're going to put that. No, they are going to bring that back. It'll be marked at what appears to be the 35-yard line for those watching on DTMechanics.com using the football lines. Make it a little bit easier on all of us who are visually stimulated by things like that. The disc is played over to the far side, handed by Keegan Carroll. He's going to dump it right back off. There's Schreiner, near side. Ben Jansen with the disc. Kevin Coulter putting on the force, trying to force home, as many Ultimate players would recognize as their sideline. The Detroit Mechanics doing a good job of that until breaking free is Will Huffer. Floater into the end zone. It is handled by Ben Jansen, who receives the second disc in the end zone today for the Cincinnati Revolution, and it gives the Revs a 6-4 lead. Always one of the exciting times of the season here in the American Ultimate Disc League is a number of these players splitting time, playing the college game, playing the professional game, a little bit different than what you'll see in many other sports. But you also have nationals going on this week, I believe, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Many of these guys taking the time out to play with their college teams, and so you'll see a number of Cincinnati Revolution players who are not here today, a number of Detroit Mechanics players who are not here, who have made their way to nationals to play in those games with their respective college teammates. And they'll be back next week as week 8 gets underway for all these teams. But you'll see a number of players missing from this week in action in the American Ultimate Disc League for that reason. As the ball goes down the field, it was thrown down there by Tim Settles, received by the Detroit Mechanics on the near sideline. Andrew Lucarati went to Joseph Besser. Now Yeager and Besser will play between one another as the force goes to the near side of the field. Lucarati just with a drop there. Uncharacteristic of Andrew Lucarati, and not sure what exactly happened on that one. Now Corey Hardesty was guarding him, but he was nowhere near that disc. Lucarati just looking to throw it before he had actually received it. There's Schreiner. Far side to Cody Fox. Goes back to the backhand. He comes back to Schreiner. Backhand into the end zone. The score grabbed by Gus Misla. Make it 21 on the season now for the UC product as the Cincinnati Revolution now take a 3-goal lead, 7-4 over the Detroit Mechanics, 2-16. This rivalry, lots of fun. Now lots of things can create the rivalry in the AUDL, in any sport for that matter. And one of those things could just be how long you played. 2 original 8s coming into this league back when it started, 2012. It can be the proximity, about a 4-hour trip down the road just a bit south for the Detroit Mechanics, just a bit north for the Cincinnati Revolution. It can be the season that you're having right now. Both teams hungry for wins. 6 straight losses by the Revolution. They come into this game 1-6. Detroit Mechanics yet to get a win here in 2015. This is a game they know is well in their sights. Had a great game against Minnesota earlier this year, coming up just shy against the Minnesota Wind Chill, losing that one 27-20 last week with a 28-18 loss. The Indy Alley Cats, a team that right now is fighting for a playoff position in the Midwest League. 14 games will be played when all is said and done and the postseason comes around. Mechanics, Eric Hubbard with the disc to Feng Chen, receives that one past the effort of a diving Keegan Carroll. And Chen will try and break his man. He'll actually go back. Krantz on the dump, receives it, gives it in to Eric Hubbard, who's there for his second score of the game. And how about that for Eric Hubbard? As we mentioned, the leading scorer on this team, that brings his total to 17 on the year. And again, it brings the Mechanics to within 2 of the Revolution here in this game. Now you can bet our records may tell one story, but when these two teams step on the field against one another, it's certainly a different one. Both fighting, acting as though this is now their championship game here for the week. Next week it will start all over, and both teams will look forward, and that's been the fun so far in the AUDL. And the 3 seasons previous, the parity, it's been thick. You've got a lot of teams who may not have those phenomenal records who come out and take down the big dogs, the Madison Radicals, the Chicago Wildfire. And in this case, you've got 2 teams with some struggles, but hey, we're entering the second half of the season after this week, and things can change mighty quickly in this league. Again, just 14 games. Gus Misla with the reception past Chen, going deep down the field. This one's going to float, and going up and picking it out of the air is Corey Hardesty for the Cincinnati Revolution. And another goal goes up on the board for the Revs. Make it 8-5 for the visitors. 1 minute and 28 seconds remaining in this matchup, or rather in this quarter between the Detroit Mechanics and the Cincinnati Revolution. Joining us here on DTMechanics.com. You can catch all the Mechanix home games. Take a quick break, and they'll be right back here at Bishop Foley Catholic School for the rest of the season. The Mechanix will head to Pittsburgh next week and have Indianapolis before coming home to take on the Madison Radicals, Pittsburgh Thunderbirds, and Chicago Wildfire for their final home stretch of the season. So couple of weeks off, and then they've actually got that doubleheader weekend coming up June 6th. They're on the road at Indianapolis, then at home against the Madison Radicals. That'll be their first home game back after this one concludes here today. The pull goes to Brian Yeager for Detroit, 126. The clock continues to count down here on quarter number 1. Pitched over to Andrew Lucarati. Dealt forward to Kevin Coulter. Bit of a low pass there. It's handled by Todd Hirschberger and given right back to Joseph Besser or to Kevin Coulter. Hirschberger with the deep cut. Not only he, that is Scott Soto-Santi with his second catch of the game in the end zone. Goal number 2 for Scott Soto-Santi. Taking some things on his shoulders here today. Not many players out for Detroit. Scott Soto-Santi, he wants this one. You can tell he's hungry for the victory. Typically a guy who's going to throw a majority of those scores. Team leader with 14 assists. Going into today's game, he's got 2 catches, bringing his total to 7. Actually third on the team with those 7 goals, although maybe passing a few people if he continues to do things. And there have been some tremendous games by a number of Detroit Mechanic individuals. Of course, the game of Ultimate, very much team sport, but I'll take you back 2 weeks ago. A 7-goal game by Kevin Coulter. Last week, Aaron Del Real, I believe, ended the game with 5. They've had some outstanding step-ups by players in these last couple of weeks. They just need to put that all together. There's no telling what could happen as Peter Krantz sends this disc down the field. Patrick Krantz sends this disc down the field for the Detroit Mechanics. Brought in by Gus Misla. Chen going to be guarding him, going to have that tough task. Now, Chen may not have the height advantage, but when it comes to heart, these two guys will go at it. Here's Schreiner with the disc looking deep. Now he's got that matchup between Shen and Gus Misla. Chen doing a good job of forcing Misla back in. Tim Settles comes in over to Cody Fox on the far sideline. Danny Hunt with the force going to the far side. Grabbed by Hardesty. Played right back to Cody Fox looking for that backhand pass. A little bit of room there between he and Danny Hunt, but Hunt doing a good job to take away the break throw. Gets this disc forward into the hands of Eddie Mack. Now played forward. Here's Schreiner one more time. One of the best passers in the league, second in the AUDL in completions at 392 this year. He's going to throw the dump back to Tim Settles, back to Cody Fox. Handled by Hardesty. Continue to Gus Misla, near sideline. Diving effort in the end zone on the out-of-bounds line, and it is a score. This one's pulled in by Landis for his second goal of the game past Eric Hubbard. No easy task. When you beat Eric Hubbard on a score, it is not going to be an easy task. Now the break, a bit of the reason for that one. Good disc movement by the Cincinnati Revolution. They're able to break that Detroit Mechanics force. That allows for the open player in the end zone. Ever what you want to see when you're the defense, but sometimes it's just hard to keep that force going the way you want it. 9-6, 3 is the advantage for the Cincinnati Revolution. 6 seconds remaining in quarter number 1 here on DTMechanics.com. Poll will go by way to the Detroit Mechanics, as this will be a quick throw looking for the end zone. Doing the polling duties here will be Will Huffer for the Cincinnati Revolution. He sends that one hurling towards the air. The wind's going to catch, it's floating around. This is going to be about half field, where the Detroit Mechanics will pick this one up. Just 6 seconds remaining on the clock. Joseph Besser, slow to pick it up. He's got the time. Why not? The dump to Lucarati, whose forward momentum takes him. Throws that backhand. Sails towards the end zone. Del Real with body position. He's not going to get to it. The D going up. It's Hardesty coming down with the disc. And hey, no. Here with 5:45 left to play in half number 1. Set to pull the disc is Van Jansen for the Revolution, as he sends this one screaming 80 yards down the field, where it will be grabbed by Brian Bush. Bush backs into the end zone. That's the second time Jansen has got one heck of a pull. He sent that disc in the middle of the end zone a few times. A little more hang time might be nice for the rest of the Revs, but other than that, that's exactly what you want out of your defensive pull Played up forward to Joseph Besser, the Mechanics, that big backhand, Kevin Coulter. This is a line drive. Coulter pulls it from the air. He's just shy of the end zone. He's going to reset the offense. Being guarded tightly, forces this one high, but he's got the big man, Aaron Del Real, who pulls it down like Dennis Rodman right there as he brings in the score, taking you back from way back in the day when Rodman used to be with the Detroit Pistons. Here are the Mechanics, Aaron Del Real, that big rebound guy, 15 goals this season. Big part of that is his height, his catching ability. If you get into a jump ball situation with this guy, you may as well consider that one lost. And that's exactly what took place right there. That was Colin Grandin guarding him. Never heard an up call, particularly from his bench. Turned around asking his guys, hey, where was that? And when you don't get the up call, when you're guarding a guy like Del Real, that's a tough one to take. 11-8 the score, as the Mechanics try and fight their way back here against the Revolutions. They'll be pulling this one down the field as Patrick Krantz sends this one 80 yards into the hands of the Cincinnati Revolution. Back to receive is Tim Settles, the man they call Skittles. Receives it, then plays forward to the Fox. Cody Fox continues on to Eddie Mack, a little bit closer right here and inside the hash marks. High pass goes up, brought back down to earth by Gus Misla. He's going to reverse it. Brings it to Schreiner, back to Cody Fox. Chasing him to the far side for the Detroit Mechanics. I'm not 100% sure on that number over there on that far sideline. We'll let you know here in just a minute. Bit of an errant throw there as Settles couldn't find his man, wasting no time picking up Danny Hunt. They continue it. There's Channing Watson. Danny Hunt looking for Eric Hubbard. He's got him. 11-9. The scoreboard now leads Danny Hunt with his first assist of the game. And Eric Hubbard, who's become the man for this Detroit Mechanics team, brings his total to 18 goals for the season. That is his third of the day. He's got a D to go along with that. Leads his team in defensive plays with 9 this year. He is helping the Mechanics fight back into this one as they trail by a score of 11-9. Just a 2-point lead for the Revolution. Saw it as much as, I believe it was 3 at one point here in half number 2. 4 minutes, 43 seconds remaining, as we will see the pull go down the way here to the Cincinnati Revolution. As we get things going once again here in quarter number 2. 4:43 left to play. This one sent high into the air. This one's going to roll as it hits about the 40-yard line. That's exactly what you want. This goes into the end zone. Schreiner's going to have to run it down. Picks it up. Daddy Mack, near side, Tim Settles. And the offensive handlers today for the Revolution, jack of all trades, Tim Settles. Typically running that offensive cutter position, but again, due to the number of guys out for this Revs team today, he's been pulling more of the handler duties. Keegan North cross the field, right back to Settles. Played forward. There's Hardesty. Couple of scores here today to Eddie Mack. And there's that triangle play you hear it talked about in soccer. Works out here as Tim Settles finds Gus Misla, the Cincy product, for his second score of the game, and a team leading 22nd of the year with 4:15 remaining in quarter number 2. The advantage now 3 again for the Revolution. And the advantage was 4 at one point here for the Revs in half number 1. Two teams thirsty for wins. It's been 6 straight losses for the Cincinnati Revolution after opening the season with a 25-18 win over this very Detroit Mechanics team over at the University of Cincinnati, where they play their home games. They would then fall the Madison Radicals, Indy Alley Cats, Pittsburgh Thunderbirds, Chicago Wildfire, Alley Cats 2 straight times before this matchup here today against Detroit. They will have the rest of the weekend off. Then they will play Chicago again on June the 5th. So some time off here for this Revolution team after this one concludes today. A bit of a bye week, you might say, for them next week. Revs getting some time off to rest themselves as they had in the second half of the season. So there will be no Week 8 play for Cincinnati. This play down the field, Brian Bush. Brought into Lucarati, near sideline. Looks for Besser, looks him off. It is in and out of the hands of Alex Gilson, who could not hold on. And that's a tough drop. We've got the wind acting up. It's actually blowing across the field here today at Bishop Foley Stadium. And when it's doing that, then the ultimate players will tell you that disc will start to dance as it's thrown across the field. I'd have to imagine that's what caught Gilson on the play. Colin Grandin on the far side brings it into the middle. Brinkman, high pass. Good job pulling that one in for the Cincinnati Revolution. Played forward, Keegan Carroll, dump off. Handled once again by Zach Kaler. He and him play a prominent role here in the later goings. Colin Grandin down the sideline, now into the middle of the field. Receive, played by Keegan North. North forward, handled by Jansen. Deep pass, he's got a couple of receivers. They're going to fight with each other over it. And it will be stolen away on the score by number 18, Keegan Carroll, who went up and made the defensive play on his own teammate. And I believe that was Will Huffer, who was going up to try and grab that score as well. Looked a bit unhappy about the situation, but he'll get over that one as it went on the board for his team. 4-point advantage for the Cincinnati Revolution. Always one of those confusing points of the game. You never want to let a disc go when you're on the field, when you see one coming near you, coming near your head, over your head, whatever the situation may be. That was exactly what took place on that play right there. And pardon me, that was Eric Brinkman who went up for that disc as well before it was pulled in by his own teammate, Keegan Carroll, for the score. Disc is pulled off, doing the duties this time around for the Revs. Keegan North, floater, finds its way into the hands of Andrew Luke Roddy. Played forward, Scott Soto Santi going to put him on the handle effort. Evan Coulter. And there's an injury as Gus Isla tried to throw the foot block and looked like he came down awkwardly on his right leg, perhaps twisted that ankle, and now he's limping off the field. He's not even going to wait for a trainer to come out. He says, you know what, I know something's not right. I'm taking off. Coming in to replace him for the Cincinnati Revolution will be Stephen Moore, number 43. He'll be on the mark. There's a foul called on the play on Misla as well. Getting a little too much contact there. Caught a piece of Kevin Coulter, marked off 10 yards. Coulter will now start with dish just shy of midfield. Played forward, Scott Soto Santi with the layout bid. He pulls it down for the grab. Plays back to Kevin Coulter. Brian Yeager right next to him. Aaron Del Real cuts in on the far sideline. To Luca Roddy. Roddy deals it to Yeager. Bring it closer and closer to the Mechanix sideline. Force going that way for the Revs. Eric Hubbard. Bit of a break cut. Corey Hardesty able to get back to defensively. Now Kevin Coulter gets in on the action for the Mechanix. Played forward to Eric Hubbard. Hubbard and Coulter, two leading scorers. They've got the disc looking for each other. Coulter to Hubbard. This one's going to float. The wind caused it. And Hubbard! How about that? Eric Hubbard, the sky right there. And that is an absolutely gigantic play by all means. It should have indeed by Scott Schreiner. He had the inside position. Then from the fog comes Eric Hubbard for the score. He pulls this one back to within 3. 17 goals, pardon me. That's now 19 goals this year for Eric Hubbard. And that is his fourth of the game for the Detroit Mechanix. A timeout going to be taken by the Cincinnati Revolution. Bit of a basketball strategy that time around as the NBA Western Conference Finals getting underway again tonight between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Just to throw that in a bit. But basically, Remy Yonkin right there just trying to slow down momentum because all of it just went to Detroit on that play with Eric Hubbard's fantastic grab. That's one people are going to be talking about in the AUDL here after week number 7 concludes because Hubbard doing absolutely everything he needed. And if Detroit can get back into this game, if they can end this 20-game skid, you're going to look to a play like that as the one that turned this game around. Trailing by as much as 4, he cuts it to 3. You've got halftime coming up. Now, will be Detroit who's going to pull back to Cincinnati when half number 2 gets underway. But nonetheless, Eric Hubbard doing a good job of getting that score. That's still 2 minutes away, so there's plenty of time before half number 2 gets going. We see Andrew Lucarati on the near sideline stretching his right leg as the Detroit Mechanix will send out their defensive squad. Eric Hubbard involved in that one. Also got Gilson there. Channing Watson. Wazdi, Grimaldo, Barrero. All stepping onto the field. Channing Watson probably going to have the pole here. He's typically been doing those duties. Indeed. He picks that one up. Revolution will come on. See Tim Settles on the field for them. Eddie Mack. Their big defensive threat. Scott Schreiner. So it's bigs on bigs. The matchup here, and that's part of the fun of the AUDL too. You get those line changes, those matchups that you're trying to get to play to your favor. As Patrick Krantz is going to pull this one for the Detroit Mechanix. Bounces in front of Scott Schreiner. Picks it up. He's got Fox to his left. And the double team is on. And that was a great job there by the Mechanix to get down that field. Now, it forces a foul, but nonetheless, Schreiner knows he doesn't have a whole lot of room. Stallcount starts over. He's got 7 seconds trying to break that double team. Will finally do so. Forces Eddie Mack, though, to get high as that one nearly went over his head. Back to Scott Schreiner. Schreiner looking for the infield cut. Finds Tim Settle just in front of midfield. He gives it right back to Schreiner. Schreiner settles. Nope, he's looked off for Corey Hardesty instead, who comes in on the in cut. Mechanix doing a good job right now, taking the deep. Eddie Mack has cut deep. I don't know if he's being looked at as Keegan North finds the disc in his hands. Good cut right back in by Eddie Mack as he decided that deep cut was taking a little too long. He didn't want to waste his team's time. Into Schreiner. Eddie Mack should have caught that. It was meant for Ted Landis, but Eddie Mack was there. He dodged the disc, and that's why you always want to make sure you catch it. Osdi Grimaldo Barrero with the pass. This one's going to float. It's grabbed by Channing Watson. But I believe, well, we got a stoppage in play. It can't be a timeout here. Detroit's used both of theirs, have they not? Now, there's been a call back by the handler. I think it actually was a timeout, as this disc will be brought back to midfield. Now, the conversation's still going on by the officials and the players. Yeah, there's got to be a timeout for the Detroit Mechanix. This will be their second. I thought they'd use two. We count off just a bit. For the Mechanix deciding they need to get that offensive group on. Maybe something they regret in the future, because Channing Watson was streaking towards the right corner of their end zone. He was wide open, had 2 or 3 steps on his defender, and that would have been a really great opportunity. Now, I don't know. He would have gotten into the end zone on the play. Would have taken an effort from Watson. He'd have had to get airborne and bring his feet down in. Nonetheless, it would have been down the field now. That would have been an opportune time to call a timeout. Of course, hindsight 2020 after you see how the play officially ends. A little easier to make that call. Wasdi Grimaldo Barrero will start with the disc. For the Detroit Mechanix, they trail by 3. 1 minute, 4 seconds remaining in half number 1. Still bring it in. Cody Fox will be on the coverage for the Cincinnati Revolution. Grimaldo Barrero plays to the far side as the count was on, and now confusion again as Fox and Wasdi Grimaldo Barrero both look at the official, and they're actually going to bring this back 10 yards. They're going to call that on Wasdi Grimaldo Barrero. Not sure if they hit him with the travel. They've gotten a little bit, I think that's what it was, got a little step happy, but that was due to the confusion. He didn't realize play was in. To Brian Yeager, Eric Hubbard doesn't come to the disc, nearly costs him as Scott Schreiner lays out for the defensive effort. He will not get to it. Back to Grimaldo Barrero. He'll play it between himself and Yeager before receiving it once again. Luke Arati cutting the near sideline. High pass meant for Scott Soto Santi. Gets it over his defender, Corey Hardesty. Into the far sideline, Hirschberger, Soto Santi. There's that big backhand. He's got Eric Hubbard cutting deep. This one's going to float. Who will come down with it? Eric Hubbard does it again. Deja vu for Scott Schreiner in the end zone. Second opportunity had to take away from Eric Hubbard, and for the second time, it is Hubbard who batters Scott Schreiner on the play. So Eric Hubbard now with 5 goals in the game brings his total to 20. He is now the leading scorer for the Detroit Mechanix by an impressive sum. He's got 4 more goals than Kevin Coulter, who's got 1 here today. And the leading scorer for the Cincinnati Revolution, he almost leads all scorers on this team for this season. Gus Misla with 2 today has got 22. So right now in the scoring race, which is being dominated by the Indy Alley Cats and Keenan Plew and Cameron Brock actually leading the AUDL in scores this year. But you got 2 guys who are fighting along one another, and Gus Misla and Eric Hubbard to try and get their names into the top 10 in the AUDL. This comes down on the pole near sideline. Grabbed by Tim Settles. Looks to the middle of the field. Eddie Mack comes free, being guarded tightly. Patrick Krantz forces the far pass. Ted Landis. Couple of scores here in this one. Gives it right back to Eddie Mack. 14 seconds left on the clock. The Revolution have got to get this one down the field. Hardesty at about midfield. Floater, it's knocked away by the Mechanics. They've got to pick this one up. 4 seconds, they call it a foul. They called a foul on Danny Hunt. The Youngstown native came in, knocked that away from Cody Fox. Feet got tangled up a bit. That was a touchy foul, but one nonetheless. And right now, Danny Hunt trying to argue this should be brought back. Cody Fox says, no, I had 2 or 3 more yards. The officials got to take control of this one. They're going to set Fox up. Feng Chen there to help out on the coverage. Double team is on. 2 seconds and 1. This one hurled to the end zone. It's going to be well short. And the mat goes up. Nobody around as that was tipped into the air by Gus Misla. And half number 1 will end. 13-11 in favor of the Revolutions. But it has been Eric Hubbard and the Detroit Mechanics who have scored the last 2. Well, we've got a conversation going on here now as the acting head coach of the Revs, Ramey Yonkin, is speaking with the official, and things are being talked over. Players staying on the field, and we may get a second opportunity at this one. If it was a defensive foul, then the play would be allowed one more. And I think they'll march this up 10 yards. I think that's exactly what we're going to see. We'll march this one up 10 yards. Danny Hunt to Feng Chen on Cody Fox. One last play for the Revolution. This has got to go deep as the disc is sent on the dump, and there we go. They're actually going to put more time on the clock. Was not set yet, so the officials will send this one back to Cody Fox. Cody Fox stands with the disc, 13-11, looking for the 3-point advantage. If the Revolution can score here, again, Chen and Danny Hunt on the guard. Cody Fox dumps off. Tim settles, got to throw that deep disc to Feng Chen, tips it, sends this one straight up into the air. Patrick Krantz gets there, so does Cody Fox. Doesn't really matter as time expires. It is a 2-point advantage for the Cincinnati Revolution. Some excitement to end that one. Eric Hubbard with the last 2 points for Detroit. Cuts a 4-goal lead to just 2 for the Revs. Will the Mechanics come back? Will the Revs hold on for their second win of the season? We'll find out coming up after halftime here at Bishop Foley Stadium on DTMechanics.com. Back on DTMechanics.com, Matt Douglas with you as we get ready for half number 2 between the Cincinnati Revolution and the Detroit Mechanics at Bishop Foley Stadium for this Week 7 matchup between these two sides. Both teams holding a bit of a losing streak right now. Cincinnati Revolution 1-6, defeating the Detroit Mechanics all the way back in Week number 1 by a score 25-18. Since then, it's been losses to Madison, Indy 3 times, Pittsburgh, and the Chicago Wildfire. The Detroit Mechanics yet to pick up a win this season, dropping their opening game, obviously, to the Cincinnati Revolution, then Madison to Indianapolis twice, and Minnesota looking to change their fate. It's actually been 20 straight games since Detroit has won, dating all the way back to the 2013 season. I believe they finished that year 4-12, if I'm not incorrect. I have to look back at the official stats, but been a bit of a rough go of things here recently for the Detroit Mechanics. They can change all that here with a victory and head into the second half of the season next week, where they will be on the road against the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds and Indianapolis Alley Cats the week after that. Try and gain some momentum. They will have to pull to the Revolution to start half number 2. Revs leading by 2, 13-11. Big reason for that, the play of Eric Hubbard, absolutely on fire at the end of that opening half, catching 2 big-time catches over Scott Schreiner, not once, but twice, to pull Detroit back to within just a couple of the Revolution. A lot of pride on the line for these two rivals. 2 original 8s in the AUDL. They're 2 of just 3 that remain. The Indianapolis Alley Cats the other. All 3 of those teams playing in the Midwest. Obviously, standings so important. Don't want to be in the bottom at the end of the year. Both teams trying to climb that ladder as the season continues on. Right now, as is, standings show the Madison Radicals at 5-0 at the top of the league. Revs at 1-6, and the Detroit Mechanics at 0-5 stand at 6-7 in the Midwest. 3 teams go on to the postseason, as it is be the Radicals, Thunderbirds, and Indy Alley Cats. The pull is off for the Detroit Mechanics. It will fall in and out of the hands of Cody Fox. Bounce first, so he was able to regroup that disc. Played it across Scott Schreiner, then right back to Fox. He'll give it off to Schreiner. Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero, the Colombian native, puts the force on, trying to bring the Revolution to the near sideline. Forced far side by Channing Watson now as he gets on the opposite end. Coming in, Patrick Krantz will force the disc. Continued, Corey Hardesty plays it off into the hands of Keegan North. Drops back. Eddie Mack plays this one forward. Looking for Landis. Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero goes up. Doesn't get a piece of it, but he threw the disc off its trajectory. Not only that, I believe he forced the offensive player to come forward. Ted Landis misread it because of that, and it went out of bounds. Maybe giving Grimaldo Barrero a little more credit, but certainly that had to play a part in it as the offense was trying to get to that disc first. Right now it's the Detroit Mechanics with the disc. Long throw to Eric Hubbard. Why not? As he gets another one and makes it just a 1-goal game. That is 3 straight by Eric Hubbard, and he has taken this game over for the Detroit Mechanics. We are just a minute in to half number 2, and Eric Hubbard is picking up right where he left off. And right now on that far sideline, the Revolution have to be talking to themselves, saying, how can we stop number 33? He is flying all over that field and just making the Revolution look silly on these last 3 points. Skyen players, and then coming away with the deep cut on that one. Scott Soto Santi find him in the end zone for the assist, giving him 15 on the year. Team leading mark for the Detroit Mechanics. 11:02 left to play in quarter number 3. And again, we are at a 1-goal game. Patrick Krantz with the pull for the Detroit Mechanics. This one will fall in front of Eddie Mack. He'll catch it off the bounce and comes to the near side, handled by Schreiner. Looking up the field, he had a man here on this near side, Keegan North. He looks him off, decides to dump it off to Eddie Mack. Gus Misla, leading scorer, 22 goals this year for the Revolution. Bit far back, gives it to Eddie Mack. Deep throw, going down the field. Keegan North, the intended receiver, gets tall, pulls it in. He's got Cody Fox cutting into the end zone. He's not there. Now the break mark throw. Danny Hunt well off his player. Was not expecting that. The score goes through as Cody Fox makes the lead 2 once again for the Revolution. First score of the day for Cody Fox this season. Fox coming up. In fact, that may very well be Cody Fox's first goal of the year. In fact, it is at this point so far for the Cincinnati Revolution. So good time to get it. So he gives his team the deuces for the advantage. 10 minutes and 32 seconds. Minute and a half have been played. We've already got 2 scores in half number 2, 1 for each side. Week 7 of the AUDL season, one other Midwest matchup going on today. That features the Minnesota Wind Chill and Chicago Wildfire. My understanding they are just getting underway, playing on Central Time over in Chicago, as the Wind Chill look to try and climb their way up the ladder. Just a couple of wins this season. Wind Chill 1-3. In fact, only one win. Their only win coming against this Detroit Mechanix team here a couple weeks ago by a score of 27-20. Mechanix looking for their first win as Scott Soto Santi receives the disc on the far side after the pull. To Brian Yeager, forward on to Todd Hirschberger. Hirschberger looking upfield as the mark is set by Keegan Carroll. Forces the dump back to Brian Yeager. Dishes off. Far side, Scott Soto Santi looking for that big backhand. It's like Miguel Cabrera. You know he's going for that home run when he can get that break mark throw. Kevin Coulter comes in to relieve the handlers just a bit as the cycle continues. Brian Yeager cuts in, looking for Kevin Coulter. Floater, get the speed, he can't get to it. This one will fall right in front of him. And a good thing for the Revolution that it did, because the mark, Cullen Grandin, was nowhere near Kevin Coulter. He saw that one going on a line drive throw and saw the only way that Kevin Coulter was getting to it if he turned it on like the Flash. Double team on that far sideline. Hammer throw over the head of its intended recipient, which was Colin Grandin. On one side, that one going all the way across the field on a Will Huffer put. That was a hammer throw that the wind caught up with. Now the wind starting to blow from north to south across this field. Kevin Coulter cuts in on an upwind throw. This one will be D'd away, and that was Huffer right there. So the errant throw by Huffer, he gets the disc back, something that is talked to many a time by teammates. Hey, if you throw the disc away, be the one who gets it back. Will Huffer doing exactly that. Picked up by Brinkman. Double team is on for the Detroit Mechanics. Scuba is denied on the put by Todd Hirschberger. Now he cuts the corner. Looking for him, Joseph Besser. He relies on his dump. Andrew Lucarati about 5 yards from the end zone. Continued down the line. Soto Santi back to Lucarati. Looking cross field. Aaron Del Real on the far side. Lucarati decides up throw. Gives it to Hirschberger. Still looking into the end zone. Yeager gives him some relief. Into the end zone, diving effort by the Rams. They won't get to it. Scott Soto Santi in again. That was Ben Jansen making the diving effort, but the outreached hands of Soto Santi able to pull that one in. The third goal of the day for Scott Soto Santi, bringing his total to 8 this year for the Detroit Mechanics, and they're getting it from everyone here today. Soto Santi, typically the guy who throws those marks. With a few absences today, he's taken over the role of a cutter up the field, and he has been absolutely giant for the Detroit Mechanics. Between he and Eric Hubbard, they've really been putting this offense together for Detroit. Set to pull. Conversation goes on. Patrick Krantz being called out on the field. Pardon me. We've got an injured player on the far side of the field as the Detroit Mechanics trainer will head out there and take a look at that and make sure everyone's okay. And I don't know exactly who that is. We'll give you word on who it is as soon as we have word, or I can get a spot on that number. It will be the Mechanics pulling off, and it looks like it will be Gilson doing the duties, and we continue to tend to the injured player on the far side of the field as the kit now goes out to help whoever that might be. Now you hate to see in as tightly contested a game as this one, a player go down due to injury. Can't tell that's Keegan North or not. May be on that far sideline again. We'll give you a little more information. As soon as I can see a number on that, I'll let you know. Hopefully he'll be all right. Backing himself on. No serious injury, at least none that could be life-threatening at this point. Looks like it may have something to do with his leg, seeing as he cannot stand up. Gilson will pull the disc off for the Detroit Mechanics. Sends that one 80 yards down the pitch, and it will bounce. No, it won't bounce. Tim Settle will step in front of it. Gives it off to Scott Schreiner. Far side, Cody Fox. Looking for that big backhand. Danny Hunt says no, thank you. Takes it away by stepping in front. Played back. Scott Schreiner. High pass. Corey Hardesty able to pull that one down. The effort there is coming in to try and play that one was Jared Saltzman, Angola, Indiana native. one of the few Hoosiers on this Detroit Mechanics team. In fact, I believe the only Hoosier on this Detroit Mechanics team. Pass played forward on Tim Settle, looking for the pass as Takashi Sato on the force mark. Playing it back into the middle of the field is Settle to Mack. Back to Settle. Back to Mack as the give and go continues between those two. Looking into the end zone was Mack. Foot block was up for Hubbard, making him rethink that option. Plays it forward to Gus Misla. Looking back, high floater to Cody Fox. Handled in, goes into the corner. Grabbed by Schreiner. Looking for Misla. He's going to look him off. Danny Hunt now on the mark for the Mechanics, trying to force him to the far sideline. Changes up the mark into the end zone. A little bit of confusion. It is in and out of the hands, and that is a catch that must be grabbed. Eric Brinkman tapping himself on the head, saying, how, oh how, did I miss that one? As it comes down, and that might have been that might have actually been Ted Landis who lost the handle on that one, and very uncharacteristic of Ted Landis, as he just could not get a grip on that. And I think that was Ted Landis. And now the Detroit Mechanics going to give the disc right back to the Cincinnati Revolution on an errant throw. Grabbed by Schreiner. Easy little pass to Cody Fox. Great job by Cody Fox. Great awareness of where he stood on the field. The officials will call that a score. Indeed, they should. David Dolberg standing right on that line. Cody Fox just following that disc on the throw from Eddie Mack as far as he could. He bodied out any Detroit Mechanics defense that might be there. There wasn't much there, but he just followed that disc into the end zone, knew where his feet were, and grabbed onto it when he knew he was in for the score. So that makes it 15-13 in favor of the Cincinnati Revolution. It gives Cody Fox just his second score of the game, and I believe that's his second of the season as well, with 6 minutes and 48 seconds left to play in the third. That means the Revs will be pulling off to the Detroit Mechanics, and doing the duties there be number 14, Will Huffer. Talking over strategy right now, Mechanics doing their best to stay with them. We've seen this the last couple weeks, playing tight. Indy Alley Cats a week ago, tight to the Minnesota Wind Chill a week ago. They just couldn't sustain it through the entire 48. Will they be able to do it here in this game as Luke Arati pulls it in, gives it off to his secondary handler, middle handler, Joseph Basser, Kevin Coulter looking upfield. Good throw. Aaron Del Real gives it back. A little bit of body contact. Basser pulls it in. Contact made there with Colin Grandin. He's going to come on the force. Throws up the foot block. Besser works around him. The backhand comes up a bit short, but Del Real lays out to keep that one alive for the Mechanics. Kevin Coulter near side. Continues to disc down the sideline. Grabbed by Hirschberger. Mark put on again by the Revolution, forcing the Mechanics to this near sideline. Continue to Joseph Besser. Forehand flick. There's Yeager. Looking for the score throw, and this is the tough part. You've got to be so patient with the disc as Coulter goes into the end zone for Scott Soto-Santi. Instead, he finds Will Huffer, who's more than happy to knock that one out of play and get the disc back for the Revs. Leading by 2, the Revolution had the disc. 5:51 remaining in the third. Double team on for Detroit. Soto-Santi and Yeager on the mark. Played into the middle. It is grabbed and handled by Zach Kaler. Plays far side. Diving effort. Colin Grandin. Maybe a bit much on that one. Want to stay healthy if you're Grandin, but nonetheless, he comes down with it for his team. Zach Kaler brings the disc near side. Handled by Brinkman. Forward. Played to Grandin. Far pass. Going deep for the score as this one floats around. It'll be pulled in by Darren Graves. His first of the game. And the lead extends to 3 once again for the Cincinnati Revolution. A scary moment here for the Detroit Mechanics. You don't want to see that lead get any bigger at this point in the game. They've stayed tight. You don't want to lose that momentum. The team's done everything they can to stay pace for pace right now with the Cincinnati Revolution team. If the Revs get that opportunity to step too far forward, if this becomes a 4 or 5 point game, you don't want to see that type of momentum going to the opposing squad. If you're Detroit. Thanks for joining us today on DTMechanics.com. We've got this Midwest rivalry for you. One other game going on tonight in the Midwest that features Chicago and Minnesota. They're just now getting underway. We'll try and update you with a score on that one as soon as we get word from around the league. One game played last night in the Midwest, and that was Minnesota and Madison. It was Madison with a big win there. 27-10, so doubleheader weekend for the Wind Chill tonight. as the pole comes down in the hands of Joseph Besser. Scott Soto-Santi going for the home run to Kevin Coulter. There it is, the connection. Coulter, Soto-Santi, they do it again, pulling the Mechanics back to within 2 in the blink of an eye. 5:11 left to play here in quarter number 3. And anytime Scott Soto-Santi gets that disc on his backhand, gets that break throw, you can bet he's going for the big one. And that's exactly what he did. 15th goal of the season thrown by Scott Soto-Santi. On the receiving end of 8 of those this year, it's been that man, Kevin Coulter, with his second goal of the game. Soto-Santi, his second assist of the day. He's also the team leader in assists, bringing his total tonight to 16 on the year. Again, just a 2-point lead now for the Revs. 5 minutes, 11 seconds remaining in quarter number 3. Patrick Krantz with the pole. Floats down the field. Bounces into the hands. Tim Settles goes to the far side to Cody Fox. Settles will drop back for the dump. Doesn't need him. Misla upfield. Landis. Far sideline. Eric Hubbard on the double team. Patrick Krantz getting in on that as well. Cody Fox there for the dump. Plays it right down the sideline wide open. Tim Settles. And they call Skittles, looking for that open throw. One of the big offensive threats of this Revolution team. There's the other, Eddie Mack, going for Settles. And Settles, I don't know that he was guarded that entire point. Kept finding the open field and just evading the defenders. Tim Settles making it look easy that time around. Just his second goal of the game today for the Revolution. And once again, a 3-point lead for Cincinnati. So every time Cincinnati, or rather Detroit, gets on the heels of the Revolution able to pull themselves away. 2 original eights in this matchup. The rivalry runs deep. First game that these two teams played in the AUDL 4 years ago was against one another. It's a fun one. These two teams know each other very well. Speaking with managerial owner and head coach in duties today, Ramey Yonkin, before this game, he said, our big rival may be considered Indianapolis, but there's no love lost between these two sides either tonight. They date all the way back since the inaugural season in 2012 here in the AUDL. Number of players have been playing throughout that time on both squads, either for these teams or one another. Couple of captains doing coaching duties for both these teams. Know each other very well. Joseph Besser with the disc after the pull. Detroit Mechanics, Brian Bush. Looking far side, thinks better of it. Ben Jansen steps in, forces the dump off. Yeager, back to Bush. Far side, Scott Soto-Santi. Dangerous when he gets that backhand, can't get to it. Good defense played by Will Huffer. Looks like Huffer's going to get that mark on Soto-Santi in this game. Bush, nice pick out of the air with the left hand. Opposite hand of what he's used to. Jansen on the force. He's got to be close to 7. This one's going to be thrown. It's caught. Aaron Del Real. A 2-point game once again, as the Detroit Mechanics offense has come to life here in the second half. Del Real's second score of the game. And wow, Bush just knowing where his player was. Brian Bush on that far sideline received the disc. It had to have been close to a stall count on that one. Knowing so, threw up an inside-out toss that floated its way as though magnetized by Aaron Del Real. And I'll tell you this, when it hits his hands, it might as well be there, as he does not drop much. As he showed you right there, it hits the glove of that right hand. He makes the grab, and the Mechanics find their way onto the scoreboard for the 15th time here tonight, trailing by 2. The pole going down the field, bounces in front of Scott Schreiner, played to the far side. There's Tim Settle looking to Cody Fox, right side. Dead, opts to play it up the field. Corey Hardesty going deep. There's Gus Misla, 23 scores on the year with that one. Misla pulls it in for the goal, and just like that, the Revolution get right back into it. His third of the game for the Cincinnati Revolution, in one guy you've always got to know. He's been a little quiet here. Scored 20 goals this year for the Revolution. But one guy you've always got to make sure you know where he is on the field is that number 11. Wearing white and green on the sideline now. when he's in the field, can make that deep cut, make that in cut. He can burn you one way or another, and he burns the Mechanix right there. 3 points the advantage once again for Cincinnati. Set to pull the disc off, Will Huffer. The defensive line sets up for Cincinnati offense. Heavy on the field right now for DMX. Andrew Lucarati on the field, we do not. One of the captains of this team. As the disc is pulled, the handlers for this point going to be Brian Bush, Joseph Besser, and Brian Yeager. Lucarati maintaining on the sideline, saying, you know what, these guys have played well here today. Also stretching that right leg throughout this game. Could be battling a bit of something with that. Then on the mark for Cincinnati, number 47, Zach Kaler. Joseph Adderser taps this into play. He's got a man in Kevin Coulter waiting for the officials to play it in. I think the official may have swallowed his referee on that play, just forgot to do his duty. Todd Hirschberger comes in. Coulter finds him, continues it down the far sideline. Soto Santi at far side cutter. Plays it back. Here's Bush. Had a pass for a score on the last one to Aaron Del Real. Receives this one. Gives it right back to Kevin Coulter. Into the end zone. The score. There's Todd Hirschberger with his first of the game. Todd Hirschberger pulling the Mechanix back to within 2. A little bit of deja vu here. Cincinnati has to be thinking, what can we do defensively to slow this line down? It has not changed. And there's where you see Andrew Lucarati, a veteran on this team. 9 assists this year. He's second on the team in that statistical category, behind only Scott Soto Santi, but he knows what's good for his team. He's riding the hot hand right now. Sort of the acting coach of this Detroit Mechanix team. They don't typically put it on one guy, but the veterans leading this squad, Ben Murphy, another guy who helps out with the coaching duties, not here tonight on the inactive roster for this game. Lucarati doing much of those duties, but getting input from a number of the players as well. And we told you, coming into this game, 20 straight losses for Detroit, dating all the way back to 2013. They're hungry. They want this win. They're not going to let the Revolution get out of this with an easy victory. This falls in front of Scott Schreiner, played forward to Eddie Mack, to Tim Settle, Corey Hardesty. Far side for Fox, looking upfield, throws the flick, finds Misla. I believe that's Gilson on the mark for the Mechanix. Diving effort is Settle, pulls that one in. Eric Hubbard right in front of him, played forward to Eddie Mack, looking to the end zone. Again, there's that patience coming in as a virtue as Tim Settles came back. I thought that was intended for Cody Fox, but the disc ended up dying. Now, I don't know if the wind caused that. It's blowing across the field. Right now, Detroit going upwind, but it died quickly. Settles tried to pull it in, and when he did, he dropped it. Timeout going to be called by Andrew Lucarati and company, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do. He likes the way this offensive line has been playing, and we'll see if it's not those exact 7 who end up on the field here once again for the Detroit Mechanix as the offensive line goes out. And we'll see a couple of substitutions as Gilson comes out of the game. Eric Hubbard stays put. Joseph Bessert is in. Alex Hunt coming out of the game for a quick moment. And for the most part, that line staying to what it has been. It looks like Wazdi Grimaldo Barrera will stay in. Kevin Coulter, Scott Soto Santi, Aaron Del Real, Eric Hubbard, and I believe that's Channing Watson on the far side for the Detroit Mechanix. Those are the guys who will be tasked with getting this disc into the end zone and cutting this to just a 1-goal game. Closest this one will have been since quarter number 1. Two teams have traded scores here in the second half. In fact, it took a little while, but it was Cincinnati who got the first goal here of half number 2. They received the pull, but the Detroit Mechanix came right back and answered. Since that, we've gone back and forth. Mechanix trying to get their second spread straight. Picking up the disc, far side, you guessed it. Scott Soto Santi with that big backhand. Tasked with trying to keep him in check, Gus Misla. As the mark is on, Soto Santi picks up the disc near side. Channing Watson receives disc sideline in front of Cody Fox. Continues the mark, forcing near sideline. Out to Kevin Coulter. Wasti Gramoto Barrero, the Colombian native, going with the backhand. Cutting in is Channing Watson. This one's going to float. It's going to be intercepted by Keegan North, and the Revolution have the disc back. Dumisla played forward. Scott Schreiner, he's got a chance. He's going with it. Cutting deep is Colin Grandin. Floater goes up. Coulter runs into him. Grandin comes down with the Bell style that time around. All kinds of contact. Grandin says, I will not be deterred, as he brings it in and gives the lead to the Revolution, making it 3 as Grandin gets his first of the game. 10 goals this year. Great job by the Mechanics to keep him quiet, as he is second on the team when it comes to scoring, behind only Gus Misla. There's a couple of other guys who've got 10 goals this year, including Scott Schreiner, who right now has been held scoreless in this game by the Detroit Mechanics. In fact, he hasn't done much today. Not many Ds, not many assists, and he is a guy who leads this Revolution team in just about every category. 18 assists tonight. Got 10 goals for second on the team behind Gus Misla, who's got 23 now. He's got 8 Ds this season. I don't even know that we've seen Schreiner come up with many Ds in this game. Mechanics have been doing a good job of keeping him irrelevant, and they do it for the next quarter and 2 minutes. 14 minutes. We'll just do it that way. 19-16. The lead for the Revolution as Joseph Besser takes in the pull from Andrew Lucarati. Now stands on the near sideline, cutting in. Played forward. Scott Soto-Santi comes up with the grab, but that was about as close as it could be. Bush back to Joseph Besser, and then back to Bush. As disc off to Besser, the Philadelphia native. Looking down the field for the score. Played his college disc in Michigan. To Todd Hirschberger. Looks to the end zone. Here's Scott Soto-Santi. Can't hold on to it. Will Huffer, there's that integrity play. How about that? Will Huffer doing a great job telling the official, I got him. I got too much of him. I didn't allow him to make that catch. So Scott Soto-Santi will have the disc. Pass interference will be the call. And that disc will come to the front of the end zone in the middle of the field. And that's one of the new rules in the AUDL. If a player feels he fouled another player, he is allowed to do that to keep that spirit of the game alive in Ultimate. You have to respect that. Huffer putting his team in a tough position. They lead by 3, 55 seconds in the third. Dump off, Joseph Besser. Looks into the end zone for Hirschberger, then looks him off. Looking back for the dump. Santi finally coming free, but not before Hirschberger does. Right down the middle, a strike thrown by Besser, and Hirschberger cuts the lead to 2 once again of the Cincinnati Revolution. His second goal of the game. Joseph Besser, tremendous job on that. Time and time again, you're told when you need it, look to your dump. Here in the AUDL, players having to get comfortable. The 7-count stall. And every other form of the game, playing in college, playing in the club level, it's 10 seconds, a little bit longer. Not only that, you get a lot of players who want to win, and almost always there's a fast stall count. Now, there's never that here in the AUDL. Besser knew time was running short, looked back behind for Scott Soto-Santi, didn't get what he wanted out of his handler, decided to look back upfield, and there, lying in wait. Like a lion in the prairie was Todd Hirschberger for the score. 19-17, Cincinnati Revolution. Eddie Mack receives the pull from the Detroit Mechanics. Played off Scott Schreiner. Gus Misla looking for that deep throw. Ted Landis cutting deep. He's not going to get it. Instead, it will be dumped back. Settles to Mack. Back to Settles. Eric Hubbard throws up the kick block. Double team is on. Watson chases the disc over. Scott Schreiner, hammer throw into the end zone. There's Corey Hardesty for the score. First hammer score we've seen here of the day. It goes to the Cincinnati Revolution. It'll be Schreiner's first assist of the game, and it will be another point out of the board, making it 2017. Guess what? That lead once again 3 for the Cincinnati Revolution. Again, a tremendous job by the Revs. Corey Hardesty made his way into that back corner in a tremendous break throw. Time and time again, you hear never let that break throw come on, but on a hammer throw like that, there's not a whole lot more you can do. More times than not, you're going to end up fouling a player when you go to deep. That hammer throw, if a guy's really got one who can utilize one, as Schreiner did on that play, it's almost like the fadeaway shot in basketball. One of the hardest things to defend in the sport of Ultimate. 23 seconds is what's left in quarter number 3. It's a 3-point advantage for the Cincinnati Revolution. Lucarati played forward to Joseph Besser. Kevin Coulter, middle of the field. Mark being put on, placed by number 43, Stephen Moore. Going to stay on Kevin Coulter. Scott Soto Santi. Back to Kevin Coulter, looking for Soto Santi. No, that's Todd Hirschberger. And that was an interesting play. We had a player go down. That was Keegan North, who I believe tripped over Hirschberger's leg. And then on the defensive effort, going in and knocking that one disc away was Grandin. No, pardon me, Grandin stays on. I'm not sure who that was there for the Revolution, but a player down, injured and hurt. Trying to see who that is. Ben Jansen. Slow to get up on that far sideline. No, pardon me. That is Eric Brinkman, number 34. And he is applauded as he steps off. Good spirit here by the fans. Good number of Cincinnati Revolution fans in attendance today. Detroit Mechanix fans in attendance today. There is no score. Now, they're going to call pass interference. The officials got together, discussed this one. They say Detroit will stay with the disc. That's a spot foul. So it'll be Todd Hirschberger with the disc, middle of the field. Tim settles to set the mark. 3 seconds remaining in quarter number 3. This is a big point right now for Detroit. The break throw, Kevin Coulter with the score, and Detroit cuts it again to just a 2-point lead with 0.2 seconds remaining. Hirschberger must have been paying attention on that one, because if he holds that any longer, play comes to an end, and the quarter comes to an end with it. So again, cutting this one to 2. Basically, we'll have time for the pole, and then it's just going to be a throw down the field. They can give their team a little time. Cincinnati can give their squad a little bit of time to get down the field and get set for it. But Kevin Coulter, with his third there for the Detroit Mechanix, have made this all the slimmer, the margin. Now Remy Yonkins come out on the field, wants an explanation for one reason or another. Speaking with the head official, David Dolberg, as you can see there on your computer screen. Now, you may not be able to see him there on your computer screen, but believe me, they're talking right around midfield. And Kevin Coulter's set to pull this disc for the Mechanix, but won't do so until the officials give him the go-ahead. That won't happen until Remy Yonkin finishes his discussion with David Dolberg. It has come to an end. Dolberg now coming to the near side of the field. And he may be discussing things with a Detroit coach. They want 1.5 seconds put back up on the clock. Well, Ramey's done a tremendous job paying attention to that clock. That's the second time he's seen a little more time left on there than when play originally ended. David Dolberg calls up to the official scorekeeper, adds the 1.5 back on. So 2, the advantage for the Revolution. It's not going to be a whole lot of time either way for Cincinnati. Coulter will pull this one. And it looks like he's going to give that one all. This one's going to sail into the, well, just short of the end zone. Here's Huffer. Will pick this one up near sideline. He immediately goes with the backhand. There's a line drive. Aaron Del Real says that'll do that for the quarter. Number 3 comes to an end, 20-18. The Detroit Mechanix trail the Cincinnati Revolution. Who wants it more? That's the question that will be answered when we come back with quarter number 4 here on DTMechanics.com. Quarter number 4 just about ready to get underway. 12 minutes put up on the scoreboard, 20-18. The Cincinnati Revolution leading the Detroit Mechanix here at Bishop Foley Stadium in Madison Heights, Madison Heights, Michigan. That's the word I'm looking for. One other game being played in the AUDL right now, that featuring Minnesota and Chicago. And take a look at their score and let you know who's leading in that one. Madison and Minnesota playing yesterday, with Madison coming up with the victory. These two teams looking for their first win in quite some time. In 20 games since the Detroit Mechanix have come away with a victory. There's been 6 games since Cincinnati has been able to claim themselves as winners, going all the way back to the first game of the season when they defeated this very same Mechanix team in that opening day matchup of the AUDL. The Wildfire will take a look here, see if we can't give you an update on that score as they're just getting underway there in the Windy City. 20-18 the score here as the Revolution will have to pull off to the Detroit Mechanix, coming up with that last score. Todd Hirschberger throwing that one into the end zone. Joseph Besser receives the pass from Luke Arati. Del Real near sideline north on the mark to Kevin Coulter. Looking for the deep throw on the mark. Colin Grandin played a big part of this Revolution defense here in half number 2. Hirschberger back to Luke Arati. On the far hashes, Luke Arati forward to Coulter. Once again, that's Grandin on the mark. Kevin Coulter, no easy task. He's kept him moderately quiet. Hirschberger near sideline. He's been big. 2 scores in that third quarter. Now gets tagged as Grandin runs into him while marking Kevin Coulter. And that was an interesting play. Kevin Coulter now speaking things over with Grandin. Grandin saying that he ran him in to the offensive player. Now, ultimately, this decision is left to the officials. The integrity rules in place if Coulter wanted to call it off, but the officials have the last call. They just need to make the call at this point. Debate can be held for gubernatorial candidates and presidents. Let's play some ultimate. Conversation continues over on the far sideline. $20 minutes and 18 seconds left on the clock. Now they are officially stopping the clock. Play should have been continued. The discussion continues to go on, as you see on your TV or your camera or on your computer screen, your tablet, whatever you may be watching. Dave Dahlberg asking for 1 minute left on the clock, or 1 minute added to the clock. That would bring us to 11:39. Decision's got to be made here. Keep the pace of the game going. They've made what they will, and they've actually called a foul here. I believe this is going to go on Kevin Coulter for running Grandin into the handler, Todd Hirschberger. So he'll have the dish. Jansen on the mark as he stays put. 20-18 the score. Revolution with the lead. As clock being set, we'll get back underway here in just a minute. Nonetheless, that was one of those situations. And the clock continued to run now. Technically should have until it had been whistled dead. But it was never officially whistled dead. A conversation struck up between Kevin Coulter and Grandin, but no one had ever whistled for a stoppage in play. Technically, that had an opportunity for the Revolution to even call out and say, hey, we wanted to stall. Joseph Besser fighting for that disc. Pulls it in past Zach Kaler. Now another collision. Will Huffer running into Scott Soto-Santi. Huffer saying, this is not my fault. The official disagrees. Disc will be walked up to the goal line. That's where Scott Soto-Santi will have the disc. And right now Will Huffer trying to get in a debate with the official. The official says, no, it's there. We're playing. Del Real in the middle of the field trying to make the cut. Soto-Santi can't find the break mark, but Kevin Coulter gives him the inside cut to the left side. Beats Grandin for this goal. Kevin Coulter getting another, his 4th of the game, fighting for that team lead in scores. That's now his 19th of the year, behind only Eric Hubbard, who with 6 tonight has got 21 on the season for the Detroit Mechanix. It is a 1-goal game. Mechanix trailing the Cincinnati Revolution by as much as 4 in this one. 11 minutes and 6 seconds remaining here between the Revs and the Mechanix. This has certainly been a spirited game between these two teams. Rivals, two original eights. Great ultimate will be played between them when they step onto the field of play. Pull by the Detroit Mechanix. Sails all the way down 80 yards. Patrick Krantz, the man pulling that disc. Grabbed by Scott Schreiner. Forward, Gus Misla looking for Landis. Ted Landis under the disc in the end zone. Beats Chen for the score. And the advantage goes to 2. Once again, for the Revolution, Ted Landis with his third of the day. That is the second assist thrown here by Scott Schreiner in the last 10 minutes of this game. Scott Schreiner coming to life, and it's really about those big players. There during the end of the quarter, you saw players to watch for the Detroit Mechanix. Number 33, Eric Hubbard, 6 goals in this game. Scott Soto Santi, 3 assists in this game. That big backhand on the other side of things, certainly you've got to make sure you know where number 1 Scott Schreiner is at all times. And Gus Misla, 23 goals on the season for the Revolution. Certainly a player who can score at will on a number of teams in this league. Ball goes down the field on Ben Jensen's roundabout. It will go out of bounds and be brought back into play where Joseph Besser calls for the brick. To be brought to the middle of the field. Actually, he's going to call for it where it went out of bounds. Now, he wants the brick. He should want the brick. That would bring it to the 30. It went out of bounds just shy of that. Either way, he's got the disc. On the mark's going to be Zach Kaler. Hey, he got the brick. That comes out 20 yards from the end zone. And Besser with good awareness to know that would have been about 5 yards back. Yeah, the official's hat was at what would be the 25-yard line on the field. Now they're going to pull it back. That disc went out of bounds. I thought he could call for the brick on that play. Official correcting us, saying no, it's got to take it where it went out of bounds. So, again, we see Kaler on the force. Able to beat it to that far side. That is the force. The Revolution are trying to keep the Mechanix on that side of the field. Far sideline now. Scott Soto Santi. Into the middle. Besser trying to reach for it, but it is denied by Zach Kaler, who knocks it away for the Revs. The offense for Cincinnati will now dish it out. Kaler's going to come back. He's going to play that far side handler. Actually, he's going to pick up the disc. Near side, he's got Grandin. Up front, though, he'll find Keegan North. Front of Del Real, losing his handles. Grandin, able to regroup, then throws the hammer to Will Huffer in the end zone for the score. And the lead goes back to 3 for Cincinnati. That's Will Huffer's first score of the game. Been more of a defensive asset today for Cincinnati. This time around, the offensive side of the disc is where he makes his mark. 22-19. Revolution leading the Detroit Mechanix. Revolution looking for just their second win this season. Their first coming back in week 1 against this very same Mechanix team. 25-18. About a 4-hour trip they take north to take on the Mechanix. Revolution and the Mechanix. This is their last meeting of the year. This is the last time these two teams will meet, unless the postseason calls them to meet. But right now, that is a long trip uphill for both these teams. And strong as this Midwest division is, with Madison, Chicago, Indy, and Pittsburgh being added to the mix their very first year, it is not going to be an easy climb. But stranger things have happened. Chicago currently in 4th, with Indy and Pittsburgh just in front of them. Right now, these two teams worried about what lies in front of them. That is this Week 7 matchup between the two original 8s. Ryan Bush with the disc near side. Scott Schreiner on the mark. Yeager, high pass over Joseph Besser, intercepted. Cody Fox comes down with the disc for the Revolution. Played forward into the hands of Graves. Dished back. Cody Fox, no. That will be Scott Schreiner. This time he's going to find Cody Fox, middle of the field. Played forward, grabbed by Misla. Nice catch there by Misla. Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero forces the disc over. Tim settles in. Misla with the strike cut. Leaves Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero in his dust. The Colombian native trying to figure out how that happened as Misla gets his 4th goal on the board here in this game. And he will add the advantage to just that much for the Cincinnati Revolution. That's one of those tough plays. This turned over, and the body language right now, that defense or offensive team that's coming off the field as they gave up that point. Certainly now what you want to see. New group of handlers goes on for the Detroit Mechanics. The Eric Hubbard on the field along with Aaron Del Real. Patrick Krantz on the far sideline, I would assume, will be your handlers. Channing Watson on for Detroit. As disc is pulled, I believe that's Matthew Perdula on the far side as well. Fang Chen trying to track this one down and will go out of bounds. He'll take it about 10 yards from the end zone, right there at the 20. Be brought back into play. Now this time he's going to get the break. So the disc will be brought 20 yards away from the end zone. Going to be Patrick Krantz. Starts with the disc. Channing Watson on his far side. Aaron Del Real with the cut in. Nice grab. Del Real being guarded tightly. Stephen Moore had the tough task of trying to keep Del Real in check today. He's done a good job. Just 2 goals today for Del Real. Coming off 5+ against Indianapolis last week. One of the shining moments. Channing Watson forward. There's Eric Hubbard. 6 goals in this game for the Mechanics. Now he's going to make that deep cut. Chen never saw him. Plays it back. Krantz. The hands of Danny Hunt. Back across the field. Channing Watson to Fang Chen. Back up the field. Eric Hubbard. Looking for Hunt. And now a foul going to be called on Will Huffer. 10 yards will be marked off. Huffer not much of an argument this time around. Eric Hubbard. Bounce off the steps. He'll be 5 yards from the end zone. Marked off at the 10-yard line here at Bishop Foley Stadium. Eric Hubbard looking to his right side. There's the cut by Watson. Goes to Chen. Then the cutback. Great read there by Channing Watson as Fang Chen finds him for his first assist of the game. Second for Chen here today. But tremendous read nonetheless. Channing Watson cut to that left side. Then realized he didn't have much of an opportunity. Channing Watson with his 6th goal of the season. 3rd on the team in that statistical category. But Channing Watson wanted that pass over there on the left side. Could not get to him. Disc was reset to Chen. And then, as though knowing Channing Watson had already made that cut over to the left side, making that cut before the throw had actually been made to Chen, able to beat his defender and get that score. 3 points, the lead now for the Cincinnati Revolution with 8 minutes and 14 seconds left today. Madison Heights, Michigan, the home of the Detroit Mechanics. Bit of a dribbler, falls in front of Tim Settle, Scott Schreiner, Gus Misla. That's Corey Hardesty. Now, Ted Landis up the field. There's Gus Misla on the far sideline, being marked tightly by Krantz. Floater into the end zone. The swat, the miss. Eddie Mack comes down with the score for the Revolution, who add to their advantage and make it 4 here once again. And Eddie Mack getting high, getting tall on that one. Big offensive player. Had a tremendous game last week against the Indy Alley Cats, finishing that game with a +10. For those who may be new to the plus-minus system, basically you get a minus anytime you're on the field for a score and a plus anytime you're on the field for your team scoring. 1 against you adds a minus. 1 for you adds a plus. And right there, you saw exactly why Eddie Mack, one of the top tier players in the AUDL. That disc coming up. Bit of a floater on Patrick Krantz. Couldn't get back to play it. Took the swat at it, but Eddie Mack was in perfect position. But if Krantz couldn't get the play, it would come into his hands. Hole going down the field for the Detroit Mechanics, who started to watch this one slowly slip away from them. Still plenty of time, though. Joseph Bessert gives the disc onto the far sideline. Tim Settle on the mark on Yeager. Played to Luke Arati in the middle, able to break Cody Fox, who overran his mark. Corey Hardesty puts the mark on Kevin Coulter. Intercepted by Gus Misla, meant for Todd Hirschberger. Handed off. Here's the hammer. Scott Schreiner, why not? He's done it once, he does it again. Grandin with the score, his second of the game. That brings him to 12 on the season. And the lead, 4 once again for Cincinnati. 5 once again for Cincinnati. 7 minutes and 31 seconds is all that remains. And right now, Detroit's got to be asking themselves, how can they prevent this from continuing? How can they stop the bleeding here? Last 3 goals scored by the Cincinnati Revolution, and Detroit so close in this game, it cut it to 1 after quarter number 3, but have not been able to tie this one back up and just have not found that ability to finish off a team this year. Have not found that ability to catch up. Now again, still plenty of time for them, but they have got to start building up to a score here very soon. Ben Jansen, a 3-0 run right now for the Revolution. The Mechanix trying to prevent that. Scott Soto-Santi with the disc. Far side to Yeager. Soto-Santi's that home run hitter, and you got to think Eric Hubbard not on the field. Kevin Coulter is. Ozzy Grimaldo Barrero to Kevin Coulter, looking deep. Todd Hirschberg, who's had a very good second half for the Mechanix. 2 goals in the game. He's thrown one to Scott Soto-Santi. Fakes the hammer. Gives back to Yeager. Opportunity at the strip there by Jansen, and Jansen got a piece of Yeager, who now pulls up hurt. And you can see him clutching. I think he got a piece of his right hand. That's Yeager's throwing hand, so certainly not something he wants to mess around with. And Yeager's going to throw the disc on the ground. He's upset. Banner going out to Kevin Coulter. Coulter says, I'm fine. Help Yeager out. Yeager puts the disc down. Joseph Besser comes onto the field of play. He'll take over the handling duties here for the Detroit Mechanix. Eastern Pennsylvania native. Michigan grad. Sets up. Says not a fan of the cold winters here off the breezes of Lake Michigan, but right now enjoying his time playing ultimate as he finds Scott Soto-Santi in the end zone to cut that lead to 4 of the Cincinnati Revolution. Detroit Mechanix. Well, that's Scott Soto-Santi's 4th goal of the game here for Detroit, but Mechanix trying to cut back into this lead. As now the defensive group will go on, try and make that stop, try and get that score. And the good thing here today for Detroit, seen, I think, more than any other game, you've got a number of guys who've gotten in on the scoring. Todd Hirschberger with 2 goals, 2 from Aaron Del Real, who's had a tough day today. Seeing some of the top defenders for the Cincinnati Revolution. Stephen Moore's been on him a number of times. Colin Grandin played very well here today. Del Real with 2 goals. Kevin Coulter 6 from to lead. 1 on the year. Scott Soto-Santi posting 4. Coming into this game, you saw during the quarters, those players to watch for the Detroit Mechanix, and certainly they are, and somebody that the AUDL knows they must watch. But it's been those 4 guys who have played the biggest part. Now here's an interception by Gilson, dropped off Danny Hunt, back to Hubbard, back to Hunt. Hunt will play it in the middle of the field. Patrick Krantz looking, continues it on. There's Gilson, far side, grabbed by Watson, and Watson again on the far sideline. Drops it back. Patrick Krantz. Soto-Santi cuts to the far corner. He's not there. Danny Hunt gets it to Gilson. Gilson playing the big defensive point here for Detroit. If they want back in this, they've got to get this score. Crowd on the edge of their seats. Watching is the Mechanix. Danny Hunt. That was a strike, Justin Verlander style, as he got it right to Eric Hubbard, tiptoeing that sideline. And if that is 1 inch, 2 inches to the right, that gets D'd away, no problem. There's only one place Danny Hunt could do that, and he found it. Eric Hubbard, 7th scorer of the game, but the big part of that was Danny Hunt's throw. Sometimes you can talk about the play of a handler. Sometimes you can talk about the play of the cutler that gives the open cut. A lot of times you'll see those deep throws. Handlers put it into space, and it's the cutter's job to run it down. That time around, that was a textbook definition of how the handler controls the point. That's exactly what Danny Hunt, the Youngstown native, did. His brother Alex Hunt playing in this game here today, sporting the number 11. Been on quite a few points. As this disc is pulled off, sails down the field, bounces in front of Tim Settle. Played in the middle, Scott Schreiner. Mark on, Scott Sotosanti. He's on the field for a turn. You can expect he'll be taking over handling duties. Grandin cuts in for Fox. He's looked off. Played to Schreiner. Schreiner with that big hammer. Detroit's got to be aware that that's there. Settle back to Schreiner. Far side. Caught and handled by Ted Landis. Landis forward to Mack. Deep cut. He's got Corey Hardesty all alone, and he's going to make him pay. Hardesty comes down with his 4th catch of the game, who snuck past that defense of the Detroit Mechanics. There was absolutely nobody around in a game this close. That is a gift of a point. 26-22 for the advantage once again for the Cincinnati Revolution. 5.5 minutes left to play. Mechanics realize what's on the line here. Been over a season and a half since they've come away with a victory. They're hungry. They're looking for that win. They know this may be their last chance to get it against an original 8 rival in the Cincinnati Revolution. In fact, will be their last chance to get it against the Cincinnati Revolution. These two teams will not play again this season. Revs with a week off next week before taking on Chicago and Minnesota in the same weekend. Detroit, they hit the road. They'd like to start that road trip off with a victory. They've got Pittsburgh, Indy, and Madison coming up in the next 2 weeks. They'll play that doubleheader on the 6th and 7th. We'll be back here for that game against the league-leading Madison Radicals. Deep pass, sailing down the field for Aaron Del Real. Sails a bit too far on the throw as it ends up out of play. And the toss from Soto Santi had no chance being received. This will be brought to the front of the end zone. Double team on. Yeager helping put that one on. Revolution not fazed by it. This comes near side. Darren Graves with the disc. Drops back. Play this one. Number 17. Number 14, Will Huffer. Going without his hat there. High pass grabbed by Grandin. Throws deep line drive. It is caught by Graves and then forced into the end zone, into the hands. Number 18, Keegan Carroll, who gets his first score of the day. One of the big defenders for the Cincinnati Revolution team as he advances the lead to 5 now. 4.5 minutes left to play. Detroit simply got to be asking themselves, at this point, how can we slow down this Revolution offense? Teams trading scores throughout that second quarter and third quarter. But here in the late fourth, it has been all Cincinnati. Went on a 3-0 run. That really changed the pace of this game. Tilted the scales in favor of the Cincinnati Revolution. And since then, well, they've continued to keep them tilted. Uphill battle for the Detroit Mechanics, but one they've got to feel they're ready to take on. Luca Roddy back in the end zone. Acting coach, captain of this Mechanics team, one of a number of veterans, helped coach this team along. Eric Hubbard, Evan Coulter near midfield, being marked tightly by North. Luca Roddy forward to Chen, catches it, left hashes, going forward. Wazdi, Grimaldo, Barrera for Columbia and for Detroit. Grimaldo Barrero gets into the end zone, 27-23, making that long trip to play professional ultimate this summer. That is his first score of the game. And it comes at an absolutely fantastic time. 6 assists this year for Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero. That is just his second goal of the season. Like I said, he's more than happy to get it right now as he cuts that lead to 4. Now, Detroit has to average right now a goal a minute to try and tie this one up, but they've got to keep Cincinnati out. Like we said, there's plenty of time to score here, but the defense has got to stand strong. Bend but do not break. Beauty of this game, that stall count. I mean, the shortest shot clock you'll find in sports. Major League Lacrosse has a shot clock. NBA has a shot clock. But none of them shorter than 30 seconds. Here, you get 7 seconds to do what you need to do with the disc. Diving effort by Gus Misla keeps things alive for the Revolution. High pass. No, it's going to be denied. Turned away. Ted Landis could not hold on. Grabbed away by the Detroit Mechanics. Sato. It's Kevin Coulter, far side. Here's Krantz. Throws it to the ground. Nobody around, and the Revolution will take over possession. Injury on the far side. That is the third Revolution player to go down here. The Revs having some issues. See what the situation may be. Can't see the number of the player who's currently down, but being tended to on the field is a Revs player. Brought the stoppage in play with 3 minutes and 34 seconds. 4 points the advantage. Ted Landis now going to be carried. That's the second player. That's a good thing the Revolution have the bye week next week, because I don't know who they'd feel on that team. Number of the Revs players actually missing in action today because of the national championships going on in Milwaukee, college national championships. Number of players playing for the University of Cincinnati who qualified for those. Number of players also with some relation. Zach Kaler, we've talked a little bit about him. His sister, Bethany Kaler, at Nationals today with Oregon's women's team as they are being represented, and very strong player. Speaking with Ramey Yonkin beginning of the game, he mentioned that Zach Kaler, a little bit of that Reggie Miller type situation. Cheryl Miller, his sister, of course, very strong. Eddie Mack into the end zone for the Revolution, who gets a goal past Kevin Coulter. That'll be Eddie Mack's fourth goal of the game. Once again, the lead jumps up to 5 for Revolution. Chicago Wildfire and Minnesota Wind Chill currently underway in Chicago. Then we'll try and give you an updated score of that one as we find it. One game played last night. Minnesota falling to Madison in the Midwest. And a number of games, of course, going on throughout the AUDL here on this Week 7 Saturday. Detroit Mechanics looking for their first win of the year, but now find themselves down by 5. Cincinnati Revolution looking for just their second win at the halfway point of the season. They defeated the Detroit Mechanics the opening week of the season back on April the 11th, 25-18. Two very different teams, though. I think much stronger in their plays. The poll comes down. Joseph Besser on the sideline plays it. Soto Santi. Forehand flick can be just as dangerous as that backhand. Kevin Coulter runs it down for the score near corner of the end zone. And there's that connection. That is the 17th goal thrown by Scott Soto Santi this year. The 9th time on the other end of it. It has been that man right there, Kevin Coulter, his 5th score of the game. So doing what he needs to do to try and bring this team back. Eric Hubbard, 7 goals this game. Leads the team currently with 22 goals on the year. Kevin Coulter, though, right behind him with 20. They both make their ways into the Venti mark. 28-24, 4-point lead once again for Cincinnati. 2 minutes, 51 seconds for the Mechanics to fight their way back, force this one into overtime, or take away the victory with a 5th goal. Mechanics will pull off. That's Patrick Krantz doing the duties. Waiting for it, it's those typical 3 handlers for the Revolution. Tim Settles, got Schreiner. Playing the disc between each other. There's the hammer. Bit of a floater. Gus Misla goes up for it, but it's Eric Hubbard who gets the piece of the plastic as he knocks it away. And now the officials. No, a timeout going to be called. I thought the officials might have been talking things over and had called a foul. Not the case. It is a timeout for the Detroit Mechanics. They'll have some time. And had a player down there for the Revolution. That was Cody Fox, who's actually just stretching. So he's all right. He'll maintain his position in this game unless he's called out by the acting head coach today, Ramey Yonkin. Also the acting managing owner of the Cincinnati Revolution, team that started out down in Lexington, Kentucky back in 2012 when the AUDL season got underway. We've seen a lot of things change. This Detroit Mechanics team started their inaugural season back in 2012 as well, playing in the Pontiac Silverdome. At that time, the Silverdome is no longer in use. Roof collapsed. The Mechanics went on down the road to one of the indoor soccer facilities and have now found their way here to Bishop Foley Catholic School, the home stadium and the home field for the Detroit Mechanics. 28-24 right now, though. It's the Revolution. Look to be wanting to celebrate this day here in Detroit. 2:41 left on the clock as this disc will be brought into play. Detroit Mechanics will have it. Scott Soto-Santi set to bring it in. Gus Misla. Scott Schreier on the inbound. Schreiner, pardon me. On the inbound. Played back. Grabbed by Joseph Besser. Mazdi Grimaldo Barrero. Back to Besser. Defense staying off on those handles. Kevin Coulter comes in. Catches an inside-out desk from Busser. Mazdi Grimaldo Barrero. Colombian works back to Besser. It's back to the Colombian native. Floater to Besser. Time running out here on the Detroit Mechanics, looking for their first win of the year. Got Soto-Santi. Looking crossfield, he's got Coulter. Decides better of it. Grimaldo Barrero. Cross to Coulter. Fakes the backhand. There's Grandin. Got in on that play. And I don't know if Besser felt that on him, but he threw the disc away in front of Eric Hubbard. Revolution take over, and Schreiner wasting no time, going deep for the score. Grabbed by Grandin, just shy of the end zone. High floating disc finds its way in, and for the fifth time tonight, Corey Hardesty has got the goal for the Cincinnati Revolution. And once again, the lead 5 for Cincinnati. 1 minute and 40 seconds left to play. Detroit Mechanics been close in their last 3 games, although last week things kind of got out of hand there in the second half. 28-18 lost to Indianapolis. Before that, 27-20 lost to the Minnesota Wind Chill. They were right there in that game with Minnesota all the way to the end, but right now Detroit just having those struggles trying to close these out. 0-5 on the year. Lost tonight would drop them to 0-6. 5 goals in a minute and 40 seconds, a heavy task. Not to say it can't be done, but Detroit's really got to step things up here if they want to do it. Pull sails down the field 80 yards. It'll fall on the goal line. In front of the Mechanics, Brian Yeager struggles to pick that one up as it bounces over his left hand. Will finally do so. Joseph Besser, Brian Bush work the disc between one another. Bush, near sideline, plays it up on the strike cut from Besser. Big backhand, sails. Aaron Del Real, he's going to battle for this one as it starts to bounce around. He goes up, disc continues to bounce, and finally it is knocked to the ground by Stephen Moore, who's had the tough task of keeping Del Real in check, and has done so today, allowing big number 8 of the Mechanics just 2 goals in this game. Wasting no time. Here's Stephen Moore. Got the D. Now he's looking for the score. Floater. He can't hold on to it. Lots of contact on that play, but no foul called. Picking the disc and bringing it right back in. Joseph Besser down the line. Brian Yeager continues it right down that line. Luke Arati, backhand throw, looking for his man in the end zone. The score is there, and it's the Fang Chen with the score, his second of the season for the Detroit Mechanics. Comes at a great opportunity right now for Detroit. They've got to find a way. Pardon me, that's his 3rd goal of the season, but they've got to find a way to put 4 quick points up with 47 seconds left. They've got to hope for a little luck on their side here. Strange things have happened in the game of Ultimate, but 4 goals in 40 seconds. That's going to be just shy of a miracle. It'll be Kevin Coulter set to pull. He's got that big line drive pull, but he can make that one sail. Wind is stale down here at Bishop Foley Stadium. Not too much. To be blowing across the field, if anything. Kevin Coulter will let this one go. Huge pull. This one's going to float just a bit, looking on that far sideline. Reiner follows it out of bounds. Disc went out at about 10 yards shy of the end zone. The brick will be called. This will be brought to the 30-yard line, as you see there on your computer screen. That's 20 yards away from the AUDL end zone. 80-yard field, 53 yards wide. 53, I think it's 1/3 yards wide, to be exact. Gus Misla cuts in. Double team is on. Forces the dump back. There's Schreiner. Deep down the field, Corey Hardesty. He's been a thorn in the side of the Detroit Mechanics all day today. Keegan North looking to the end zone for Cody Fox. Denied by the Detroit Mechanics. They've got a little time here. Clock continues to run. Detroit can't waste any time. They've got to get this thing going. On the inbound, Mechanics find Eric Hubbard in and out of his hands, and that's probably going to do it here. 18 seconds is a stoppage and play is called. See what exactly we've got. The officials have stopped play. I think, well, right now, Cincinnati's huddling up over the disc. Timeout, I'm pretty sure, was called here by Cincinnati. They're just going to take a quick second to talk things over. Now they've got 90. They don't have to use it. If they're ready to go and Detroit's ready to go, they can put this thing back into play. After today, Detroit will fall to 0-6 on the season. Cincinnati Revolution will be 4 games from 500. They'll advance to 2-6 with a much-needed break for them. The way players have gone down in this game, bet they were wishing that they had the bye week this week. So many players for the University of Cincinnati off this Revolution team due to the national tournament going on in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Sometimes that's the way things go here in the AUDL. It is a scrappers league. These two teams certainly scrappers in this Midwest division. Lots of time left. That will be the 8th game in the books. Cincinnati will have just 6 more remaining before the year comes to an end. Very tough teams in Chicago, Madison, Pittsburgh lie ahead. For Detroit, it's the same as they'll hit the road next and take on Pittsburgh, then hit the road on the 6th against the Indy Alley Cats. Disc is set to be brought in. Cincinnati Revolution will hold the disc with 18 seconds. There's Schreiner. That trips over his defender, Danny Hunt. And now the officials setting things up. They're basically going to let Schreiner reset. They'll continue the skull count. Once play is brought in, Eddie Mack drops back for the dump. Double teams on. All he's got to do is dump it back with 13 seconds left. They can play it between each other and just hold on for the win. He's got 7 seconds to hold on to it. He'll play it up the field. Comes up just shy of Gus Misla. Throws for the score. It's instead intercepted by the Detroit Mechanics, Wazdi, Grimaldo, Barrero, but the horn sounds, and now we'll do it. So an impressive play to end this one for Detroit, but they cannot hold on for the victory. It's 29-25. It is the Cincinnati Revolution coming away with the victory today. Leading scorer in this game for Cincinnati, Corey Hardesty, finishing the game with 5. Gus Misla right behind him with 4 goals in the game. Leading scorer for Detroit, Eric Hubbard, finishing with a team-high 7 goals, bringing his total on the year to 22. Close behind him was Kevin Coulter. He had 5, trying to fight for that team lead in goals. He has now got 20 on the year. So again, Eric Hubbard with a team-leading 22. Kevin Coulter right behind him with 20 goals this year. Aaron Del Real finishes the day with 2. Todd Hirschberger coming up big late in that 3rd quarter as he grabs a couple. Wazdi Grimaldo Barrero finishes with 1. Scott Soto Santi on the receiving end of a few goals today. Finishes with 3 assists and 4 goals for the Detroit Mechanics. Others with points: Joseph Besser, Brian Yeager, and Defang Chen all getting into the end zone. Defang Chen also with 2 assists on the night. That brings to an end our broadcast again at 29-25. Cincinnati Revolution defeat the Detroit Mechanics. Next week, the Mechanics will hit the road where they take on newcomers in the Midwest and in the AUDL, the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds. That game getting underway on May 30th, starting at 7 on the road in Pittsburgh, before the Mechanics take on the Indianapolis Alley Cats, another Original 8 matchup. That game to be played Saturday, June 6th, before the Mechanics make their way home on Sunday afternoon, June 7th. We'll have that broadcast on the 7th for you as they take on the Midwest leading Madison Radicals, who are currently undefeated on the year at 5-0 after last night's win over Minnesota. Have a great night. One more time, Revolution defeat the Mechanics to advance to 2-6 on the season. Detroit falls to 0-6, 29-25 the score here. For myself, Matt Douglas, have a great night. We'll see you in our next broadcast, June 7th, here on DETmechanics.com.